Hey guys, what's up? It is Ripe again, back with a mix of revenge and entitled people's stories. If you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, Oh How the Tables Have Turned. This is not my story, but my mother tells it to me every now and then. When we first moved to Georgia, it was right before the 2008 recession. My mom found a crappy job that paid the bills while my father was still searching. In this job, people were treated horribly by management, but no one else made my mother's life a living hell quite like her manager. This woman treated my mom like utter trash because she knew my mom had children, my sister and I, and also knew that my mom was desperate for a job. She would lie on my mom trying to get the higher-ups to dislike her, and any chance of her getting a promotion was tarnished by this woman. I believe my mom endured this for 4 to 5 years. Fast forward several years ahead, my mother is now in a way better job, has good connections with people and is good at what she does. Her company was looking to hire more people, and guess who walks in for an interview? My mother's old manager from hell, and guess who was interviewing her? My mother. She conducted the interview like any other, and when all the higher-ups came together to discuss what people to choose, they went out their way to bring in my mom and ask her what she thought about them and if they would be good employees. She gave detailed responses right up until they asked about the ex-manager. When it came to the ex-manager, my mother gave a very generic yet professional, out of everyone the ex-manager was the most qualified. The meeting ended and all was well. After the meeting, the vice president of HR, her and my mom are cool, came up to her cubicle and asked what she really wanted to say. My mother looked up and said, I wouldn't want to work in the same company as her. The VP smiled and said, that is all I needed to hear, thank you. And walked into her office and emailed the ex-manager that they chose a different candidate. And yeah guys, that's why I think it is always a good idea to treat people well, even if they are below you, so to say, in some kind of job or whatever, because indeed the tables can turn, and as people like to say, what goes around comes back around. The next one is titled, Don't Park on the Street? Okay. I have a very large work truck that I park at home. I just barely have a spot for it in the backyard parking pad next to the garage of the back alley. My first day bringing the truck home, I was not confident enough to park it next to the garage, so I parked it on the street in front of my house. I did not realize that commercial trucks were not allowed to park there, but one of my neighbors kindly reminded me by immediately calling by law. I woke up to a warning on my windshield. The next day I still did not have the confidence to park on the pad, so I parked in the alley right up against my garage. An hour later, as I was working on the truck, by law rode up on me and kindly asked me to park elsewhere. He was sympathetic to my situation and understood how petty the whole thing was. But the law was the law and he was just doing his job. As nice as he was, he would not tell me which of my neighbors was calling me in. I assume it was the one that had karaoke parties at his house 3 nights a week and whose friends park all over the neighborhood. I may not be allowed to park on the street, but I was allowed to park on my own property however, and if that is what my neighbor wants, then that is exactly what they will get. The clearance between the fence and the overhang of the garage is tight within inches on either side. Because of that overhang and a utility box in the alley, I can only approach from one direction and I can only back in. There was no other way getting it in that tight spot without hitting the fence, the garage or the utility box. It is just extremely tricky. Doubly so if my neighbor across the alley also parks there, or if it is garbage day and all the bins are out. But my god, I will get it in that spot or die trying. For the next few days I spent hours after work trying to figure out the best way to attack that angle. Back it up, stop, get out of the truck, check my clearances, get back in, readjust and repeat over and over and over again until I get it just right. The petty revenge? I often work late hours and come home when it is dark. And my backup signal is loud, very loud. You don't want me to park on the street? Then you get to listen to that racket every single damn night. And I will savor every minute of it. I am now a master at parking that truck. I know exactly where to place the truck and where to turn and what to look out for. I don't have to get out of the truck anymore. But every single night I will take my sweet time getting it just right. Often I will challenge myself to get it one shot without having to readjust the truck. Doing so means being very slow and methodical. But hey, at least my truck is not an eyesore on the street anymore. And guys, I would say that is not only textbook petty revenge, but also a healthy dose of malicious compliance. And if you have watched until here and enjoy malicious compliance and revenge stories, then please don't forget to like the video and maybe even post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support my channel. Thank you so much in advance, your help is very much appreciated. And the next one is titled, Woman felt entitled to my handicap parking spot just because she is pregnant. Why do some people with kids feel so entitled just because they have kids? I, female 30 years old, have an autoimmune arthritis condition. I walk with a cane. On my bad days I can barely walk at all. I have a handicap placard for those days. I had to go grocery shopping a while ago and I was in no condition to be walking a long ways. Not a code red pain day, but definitely up there. If I hadn't been completely out of a few major necessities, I wouldn't have been out at all. When I got there, all the handicap spots were full. But I saw an older gentleman loading his trunk and knew that spot would soon be available. So I pulled up and put on my blinkers and waited. Soon as he was gone, I pulled into the spot, threw up my blue placard and began hauling myself out of the car. I am just about ready to close the door when I hear, "Excuse me." I look over and see a teal SUV pulled up behind me. There is this woman in the driver's seat yelling out the open passenger window at me. EM, "You just took my spot." Me, "What? I was waiting behind the other guy. I didn't see you." EM, "No, these are handicap spots. They are only for handicapped people." I am literally leaning against my car, cane in hand. I hold up the cane. "I am handicapped, ma'am. I have a permit." EM scoffs and pulled away. I decide to just forget about her and begin my hobble walk into the store. I got even more frustrated when I saw there were no electric carts available, so I was forced to grab one of the smaller trolleys and walk. Since I have a hard time pushing a cart one-handed and the cart offers some support, I put my cane inside the cart. I was only as far as the produce section when I hear a familiar voice. "Hey you!" It's the entitled mom. She is pushing one of those big carts that look like cars for the kids. She had an infant and a toddler strapped into the front of the cart, another kid 2 years old standing, bouncing in the cart, and yet another kid holding her hand walking beside her. He looked 5-ish. I am bad at telling ages. She is also very pregnant. She stalks up to me with this pissed off expression. You need to learn to be more respectful. I was waiting for that parking spot and you stole it." She is talking and yelling over her kids, who are all fussing loudly. Me, "Lady, I didn't see you waiting for that spot. If you were, I apologize." EM, "I was waiting for it. I needed a spot close to the entrance. Because of you, I had to park all the way towards the back." Me, "Well, I said I was sorry." I look over her and her brood real quick. Besides, that was a handicap spot. You can only park there with a permit. Are one of your kids handicapped? EM, "No, that spot was for me. I'm pregnant." Me, lady, you cannot use disabled parking just because you are pregnant, not unless you have some complications that affect your mobility. EM, "No, you can use them if you're pregnant too. I always use them." Me, "I don't think that is how it's supposed to work, ma'am. You are lucky you haven't gotten a ticket for not having a permit displayed." EM huffs, "Well, you shouldn't be using it. You're not pregnant and you clearly don't have kids." Me, "No, I'm not pregnant, but I am disabled." This whole conversation I've been leaning on my cart for support. I pull my cane out for her to see. I can barely walk 10 feet without a pain. That's why I have a handicap permit. EM, "That is no excuse. You cannot be in that much pain. I've been up all night with a colicky baby and couldn't keep anything down because of morning sickness. I'm exhausted. My feet are killing me. You don't know what it is like wrangling 4 kids while pregnant. I clearly needed that spot more than you did." I am more than done with this whole argument at this point. "Look, lady, I am in pain. I am tired and I want to just finish my shopping so I can go home and try to work up the will to make dinner tonight. I didn't see you waiting for the damn parking spot and you shouldn't be using it without a permit anyway. Good day. I tried walking away. EM, you selfish brat. You don't know what tired is. I'm going to report you to store security. I will get them to tow your car. Me, lady, call security if you want. I'm not allowed to park there. I didn't choose to become disabled. But you chose to have kids. It is not my fault you are tired and run down and cannot be bothered to walk the extra 200 feet to the door. It is not my fault you chose to become pregnant. You deal with your life, I will deal with mine. I hobbled off to try to finish my shopping, ignoring her parting comments. That fight gave me just enough adrenaline to get through my trip without falling apart. I had an assistant help load my vehicle, which was undisturbed where I had parked it. I was still pissed when I got home, but it was nothing a long soak in the tub couldn't fix. I still hope she gets ticketed for parking in the handicap spots, but as long as I never see her again, I will be happy. For people asking, I live in Washington State, USA. The store I was at did not have special parking for expecting mothers. I have seen them at some stores and I wish we had more. You legally need a handicap placard to park in the blue spots. This woman did not have one. I only engaged this woman because I honestly thought I hadn't seen her waiting for the spot and that I had cut her off. Normally, I wouldn't deal with people like this. She just frustrated me by following me inside. And guys, please let me know in the comments what you think about this story. Do you think that OP handled this situation correctly? In my opinion, for sure, since OP was just following the rules, while the entitled mother simply showed textbook perfect entitlement. And the next one is titled, Sold my car, new owner tries to make me pay over $2,000 in fees. So when I was in college, I bought an old 1974 Mercury Comet with the intent of fixing it up because I loved older cars. However, due to being a broke college kid, I eventually realized that I bit off more than I could chew and started looking to sell the car. Pretext: my apartment had one street where everybody could park if they didn't pay extra for a private parking space, and I couldn't afford to have a private spot, so this is where I parked. Since the street was a public street, they had a rule where you couldn't leave your car parked in the same spot for more than 72 hours or else the car was technically abandoned and they had the right to tow it. Now, I had problems with this rule since I had gotten the car. Most of the time this rule is pretty much ignored as everyone parking here either lives in the apartment complex or they were parked there because it was the closest free parking area to my university and all the cars just blend in with each other. The problem with my car was that it stuck out like a sore thumb, being from 1974 and admittingly looked like it could not even start. I had gotten a decent amount of fines and tickets from them, but was always able to contest and win because I could prove I lived on the street and I always made sure I moved it to the other side of the street every 2 to 3 days so they legally couldn't tow it. Safe to say, every time the cars on my street were checked, they kept an eye out for mine to give some BS reason as to why they could ticket or fine me. They really didn't like me. Fast forward to selling my car. It took a while to find somebody to sell the car to, but after a couple months I finally found a buyer. He was a little older than me, but not by much. I was only getting $1,500, which sucked because I paid closer to $2.5K for the car, but I thought I got my money's worth of driving around and was just glad to get something for it. He told me he couldn't pay all at once and wanted to know if we could do a payment plan for the car, which I agreed to because I just wanted the car gone, and so I wrote up a contract with everything detailing the sale in it, which he signed, I signed, and a witness, his friend who happened to come help him with the car, also signed. I got $500 in cash and then a few days later the car was gone, so that was the end of it, or so I thought. Fast forward a few weeks later and I got a letter about the car. The car had been towed and was still in my name because I completely forgot to do a title transfer when I sold the car and had how much I owed at the bottom for the storage in the tow yard. Almost $2,000. I checked the date it was towed and it had been towed a couple days after I made the sale because the buyer never took the car. What also confused me was that it had been weeks and the buyer never said anything to me asking about the car and where it was. So I messaged him and tried to call him letting him know what happened. He didn't get back to me until 6 days later asking where it got towed to and if the car was still there. I gave him the info and he called the company to ask how much the total cost for the car was now. It had gone well over 3K, and I then got a short message back that says, "Yeah bro, it's too much, it's already at over 3K. I would rather just get my 500 back." I'm sorry? The F? I get a hold of him and basically tell him he's not getting his money back and that this is on him. He shouldn't have left the car there for days, which I warned him about before he bought the car. He proceeds to tell me, "Look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way." To which I tell him he's not getting his money back and he needs to pay the towing company to get the car back. He immediately hangs up and sends me a message that says, "I will see you soon." I, a 20-year-old college student who has never dealt with anything regarding the law, is now freaking out because the new buyer basically said F you while I am sitting here with an ever-increasing bill of over $3,000 in my name. Then I remember something, the signed contract that 3 people signed, the revenge. So I find the contract in a folder in my closet and immediately take pictures of it just in case I would need them, and then call the towing company to explain everything. The guy is super nice and at first tells me I might be completely screwed as I never sent in a title transfer to the DMV. However, once I bring up the contract, he says, "Oh, you have a signed contract from before the car was towed? That's great. You should be fine as long as you send a title transfer indicating the sale date with the contract as proof to the DMV. I found out you can do one completely online, and once I sent it in, I didn't get any more messages from the towing company. However, I did end up calling the towing company a few weeks later to make sure I was in the clear, and what he told me was glorious. So the buyer did not pick up the car for a while, so it continued to accrue more and more in fees until it reached over $4,000. But that is not even the best part. The best part was him telling me that after a certain amount of days, the car gets auctioned off if it hasn't been picked up, and the owner of the car still has to pay all of the fees for the car for storage. By the time the guy who tried screwing me $2,000 finally called to pick up his car, the towing company made sure to get all his information, name, address, etc. first, and then let him know that the car was already auctioned off, and then slapped him with around $4,500 in storage and towing fees. I couldn't be happier. Oh, and if the buyer who tried to screw me is reading this, go F yourself. And Ripe Stars, sadly, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest you to check out my binge watch playlist, which you will see at the corner of the screen. If you click on that playlist, you will find hours of ripe content, and also by watching this playlist you will support my channel. This is due to the fact that YouTube likes when users stay on one person's channel and watch several videos in a row. In addition, you can also check out my Patreon at patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more exclusive Reddit videos. Prices start at $3 a month, but please don't feel pressured into giving me money or anything. It is already enough for you to watch my videos daily. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.